Hello everybody and welcome. We're so glad you were able to join us tonight and we're looking forward to working with you. We know how much you give to children and families, and we know how much children and families need you in their lives. So let's hope that together we can come up with some refreshing and reinforcing thoughts so that you can continue this terribly important work that you do, feeling that you've got some renewed energy. This evening we're going to be talking about this book, which is called Discipline is Not a Dirty Word, and it is one of the programs I wrote when I was still on the faculty at Cornell in the Department of Child Development and Family Studies, since renamed to be Human Development. The first thing people always ask me is, why do you use the word discipline? Why don't you use the more modern phrases of behavior management or child guidance techniques? And I'll tell you why. Only I think that the American Academy of Pediatrics tells you better. So I'm going to read to you what they say. The word discipline, which comes from the root word disciplinare, to teach or instruct, refers to the system of teaching and nurturing that prepares children to achieve competence, self-control, self-direction, and caring for others. I like that. And I think I like it because it implies that discipline is something we do for ourselves. It's an internal process of giving ourselves permission to do something or telling ourselves that no, that's not something that's appropriate. Now, babies don't have much. In fact, babies really don't have any self-control, and we don't expect them to. It's something that comes very, very slowly as the child goes through the early years of life. Let's imagine for a minute that this little puppet represents self-discipline. And what our task or challenge is to extend this gift very slowly and very gently and very lovingly to the child we care about. And what we want is for that child to reach out and embrace this little creature and say, yes, that feels good. It feels good to do the right thing, and I want to own it. So the process of discipline is the process of helping children integrate an internal process of telling themselves what they can or cannot do. If we thrust the creature like this, it's scary, and the child backs away. I think any of us can scare a child into behaving, into doing what we think might be the appropriate thing. But what we want is an internal process inside the little person. Well, what kinds of behaviors on our part lead to that internal discipline? And I'm going to ask for 2 volunteers from this great audience we have here to come, and all I'm asking is that you be close polls. You'll come, Eileen? Great. And you'll come? Great, Deb. Thank you. All you have to do is to pretend to be very sturdy clothespins. Right. And I'm going to have a collection of clothespins that will represent discipline strategies. So I'm going to begin at Deb's end and say, let's imagine that we have a 10-point scale here, 1 to 10. And at this end, we're going to say a 1 means that children can do anything they want to. Absolutely anything. They can ride all over the walls. They can throw their toys around. They don't have to go to the doctor. They certainly don't have to go to school. Don't have to have shots. Nothing. I'm exaggerating. Imagine that pink is red, and what does red signify? anything goes. But in this case, this is a red light, and it is illegal. We're not allowed to do it because it would be legally neglectful. Now, it's interesting that there are two sides of this one. One is a parent or a caregiver who allows children to do whatever they want to do because they believe in creativity. And anything goes. Of course, we don't want to hinder the little darlings. The other side of it is that a parent or an adult can be so down, so depressed, so subject to chronic illness or addiction or grief that they simply don't have the energy to put limits on little children. So we're going to say that this is a 1, it's illegal, we can't do it, so forget it, okay? At the other end is another red stop clothespin. And near Eileen, we get the behavior that says, you behave or I'm going to take my belt off and beat you with a buckle end of it. You want to know what hot is? You just go get near that stove. I dare you, go for it. So this is the kind of behavior that ends up with photographic evidence, and that too is illegal. You can't do it. But in between, we have all these choices. And what can we do about them? Well, there's some very interesting research that tells us what we can do about it. And the beginning research was by Diana Baumrind. How many of you all familiar with Diana Baumrind? Who decided that instead of asking adults how they discipline children, she would ask the children themselves, because she thought that adults would tell the researcher what they thought she wanted. And children who had grown up with these adults would tell them what actually happened. And what she found was that there are 3 kinds of discipline, and we're going to demonstrate those. We've talked about permissive, and we're going to say point 1, 2, 3, still in the area of permissive, but we know that under tension or pressure, these can slide toward the illegal, the unwanted. At the other end, this is a 9, and this is an 8, and under pressure, tension, stress, these can also slide. So we want to be a little bit leery of the yellow clothespins. They're too near the ends, but what we want are the green clothespins, because they're in the middle, and we have some variation, as you can see. And what the research indicated was that this is permissive, this is authoritative, and this is authoritarian. The authoritarian says, do it because I say so. The permissive says, I don't care what you do. And in the middle, there is a group that says, I'm going to load this relationship with love and support, but I'm going to have very high expectations for these children because I care about them and I love them and I want them to grow to be healthy, productive adults. That's what the teenagers told the researcher. Now, for a while, people thought that Baumrind's research was off track because most of the people she talked to were Caucasian. So somebody else repeated her study and did it with African Americans and got exactly the same results. Permissive, authoritative, authoritarian, and the kids we all want or hope to get are these. Now you can see that there are 4 points here, so that you could be fairly permissive, you could be getting a little firmer, you could be pretty firm, and you could be pretty strict. You can even, and I know this was true for me as a parent, at 6 to 7 in the morning, you might be here. And at 6 to 7 in the evening, you might be here. And that's okay. You don't have to be rigidly consistent, but you can talk to your parenting partner or your teaching partner about where do you think I am on this scale, and you may be very surprised at what you get. You may find that your partner perceives you to be either more lenient or stricter than you would have guessed. So, when we look at this, we all want to aim here. And if we don't like the terms permissive, authoritative, and authoritarian, we can do what Barbara Colarosa suggested, and we can say, these are jellyfish adults, okay? Wibbly wobbly, no limits. This is spine. You have a strong backbone, but it can bend a little. And this is brick wall. Absolutely no sway at all, okay? So, do you have the three categories? Anybody want to say anything about them? Has anybody ever experienced, as a teacher, feeling too far down or too far up? Yeah, we all do. We all do. And one of the things we need to say to each other is, we all make mistakes. And the only thing that matters is what do we do with the mistakes we made. We just go on.